I skipped the dream that I had. So if you want to hear it, I can give it to you. Otherwise, we'll be dismissed. Does anybody want to hear it? You want to hear it? Okay. This is actually the second time I've had this dream. And there's a few times that I dream that they grip me. And when I have these dreams, it's always right before I wake up. So they grip my heart. Well, this is the dream that I had. And you weigh it and you pray for an interpretation, maybe it's just for me, maybe it's for all believers. I don't know. But it's very quick. But I'm driving down a coastal highway it's in a town. It's on a seaside city. And the scenario is almost exactly the same between the two dreams that I had. I looked to my left to the ocean. The land was on my right, and I'm in a car. There's somebody in the car with me. I'm not sure who it is. And I see a huge tsunami wave coming. I mean, it's huge. It's like 100 feet high. I mean, it's really tall. And it's just coming into the land, and nothing is stopping this wave. There's no way to stop it. And I'm looking, and I look straight ahead, and the wave is as far as I can see. And I look behind me as if I'm thinking about turning around and going the other direction, but I'm going parallel with the wave that's coming in. It's still going to come in. But I've come up to an intersection that actually has a stoplight. I mean, it's in the town. And I was like, well, then I'm going to turn and go perpendicular and try to run away from the tsunami. Well, the tsunami is coming in, and it's coming in huge, and it's coming in fast. And I'm driving as fast as I can on the city street. And this city street actually starts to go down. And you think, wow, that going down would mean going below sea level. But but there's buildings, and there's houses, and there's foliage, and there's trees, and there's all type of thing. And it comes up the other side, and it keeps going. And I'm driving, but the wave overtakes me in the car that I'm in. And the car begins to flip and to turn and to churn with the wave that's with it. And while I'm in the turning and the spinning car, I'm thinking about the decisions that I could have made when I first saw the wave, which was unavoidable. It was coming in, and it was big, and it was huge, and it was going to bring great destruction and wiping out everything in its path. And I'm replaying it over and over again, and there was no escape. And that's when I woke up. There's not a happy ending to this right now, other than that I really believe that Yahweh is giving us a warning as to what's coming. But here's the thing, I didn't die in the wave. I don't know what's on the other side of surviving the wave, other than in my mind I can play it forward, but it's not in my dream. So when we look at what's happening, I think, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that we are on the very precipice of what is called the Great Tribulation. I'm just thinking, I don't know the timing. It could be another 2 years down the road. It could be now. It could be this spring. That things are going to be happening so big and so fast that it's going to be overwhelming. Even though we've studied it, even though we've talked about it, even though that we have prepared for it in so many different ways, that it's going to be so big and overwhelming, we may feel it as like inescapable. And yet there was this pocket in this vehicle that the glass wasn't being broken out, and even though it was spinning and it was churning, that I was still living and breathing. I was secure still in my safety belt. And so here's some things that I'm not saying this is prophecy. I'm not saying that the dream is prophetic in any sense. I mean, we have to weigh it and put it all together. But I want to talk about just some things. Back in 2013, we invited Gil Broussard to Life of Worship. We were over at the other building, and he spoke about Planet 7X. And he was talking about the timeline of Planet 7X, and he said specifically that he believed that that system would be coming in 2015 and 2016, or 2015 and 2016, that we would begin to see that system at the end of January, and we should be able to see it with the naked eye towards the end of January, going into February, maybe as early as December, but he's always kind of leaned towards the end of January, and that its appearance would not be able to be covered up any longer as the 40 days before Passover approached. And he said if it doesn't happen in 2015 and 2016, then he thinks that the next possible time that it would be either be 2020 or 2021. Well, we're in 2021 right now. And he is not speaking as if that was something prophetic. He was just saying, based on calculations and based on his studies and looking at the Chinese records and looking at the biblical records, and then looking at the astronomical calculations and everything like that, going back to the time of its first discovery, before they put a black on it back in the early 90s, that putting all those pieces together, he really believes that this is the year that it could show up. Of course, I'm always, when I hear people talk about these things, because I don't study these things out, because some of these things are way beyond my expertise or knowledge. I'm not a science person, all that. I just have to say, okay, let's weigh it out, and then let's wait and see. But if this is the time that this binary system is coming in, it's a large planet that can only be seen in the infrared system, but it's going to have a tail. And it's the tail that we're going to be able to see, and it's going to be like a comet tail. And at first it's going to be small, but as it gets closer and closer to Passover, that tail is going to cover the entire sky. It's going to start stretching, become longer and longer to the visible eye. It also makes me wonder why on January 1st they started chemtrailing heavily once again in the Texas Panhandle. And if you've noticed, every day they're out there covering. If it's a clear sky, they're chemtrailing, and they're putting those vapors all through the sky and making those fake clouds. So if this is the year, because he's always said that when this thing approaches, it'll tell us that the time of the greater Exodus is here, and that the greater Exodus should correspond, just like Monty's talked about, Eddie's talked about, corresponds with Passover. And so if this is going to play out, this could be the year. And of course, when it comes across, we've talked about meteor showers over the course of this last year. I've mentioned them several different times because I was repeating what people that have connections with the government agencies that have been watching these things, that are saying, it's going to start out small, it's going to start getting bigger, those meteor showers are going to become meteor storms, and they thought surely by December we'd see it, but it hasn't showed up yet, has it? But I will tell you this, according to Stephen Ben Noon, as of October, we had doubled the amount of impacts of meteors as of October, okay? So most of those meteors, they did document in the news, several of them that hit land. There's in India and Brazil. I think there was one up in Pennsylvania. There were several different places that I remember right off the top of my head. But most of them, because the world is full more of water than land, most of them hit the water, and most of them were small enough that they didn't create tsunamis, but they did hit the water. So we did see an increase there. The other thing that we were told is that in 2020 we would have a record number of hurricanes, and that's what happened in 2020. We had a record number of hurricanes. In 2020 we had a record number of earthquakes, and I think on the low side it was at least 65,000 major earthquakes or measurable earthquakes. 65,000, which is way above any prior year that we've ever had. Plus the number of volcanoes that are active around the world, and we've had shiftings in the crust, and we've had sinkholes like unlike any other time in history. I mean, they've had videos in Norway where I used to live where whole land masses of land is just comes off the side of the mountain and goes into the ocean. And I mean, it's huge houses, being broken up and falling into the fjords. I mean, I saw a couple of those videos that happened just this year. And so we have all of these different signs that are showing up that are representing the birth pains that Yeshua talks about. Now, we have a governmental system in place, and I don't think it really would have mattered whether it was President Trump or Biden, because I don't know how much President Trump could have held it back. But now the door is wide open. They are shifting everything. They're changing everything in terms of social programs, governmental programs. They're opening up the border once again. We're going to have migrants flooding into this nation, and they're giving the illegals that are in this nation a pathway to citizenship, and that's just this nation. Then you throw on top of it the biochemical wars that are going on with the bio-release of the coronavirus, and then the vaccination, which is we've talked about the mRNA, which changes our own DNA and makes us programmable, where they can put their mind control into us if it doesn't kill us first. In fact, Hank Aaron died yesterday, right after he took the second shot of the COVID-19 shot. So when we put all these different things together and we look at the things that are happening, this is truly a time that we must get our houses in order. This is truly a time that we need to be looking, and we need to be prepared, and we need to be ready. That as we've talked about before, we may have to bug out sooner than what the greater Exodus is. If the information that comes from, like Steve Mutria talks about, just that the bride, the Church of Philadelphia, the Assembly of Philadelphia, is translated over to the mountain, Mount Sinai, that could be one sign of one of the things that will be happening. And then of Eddie and Tammy, what they said, which makes a lot of sense as well, that we will all gather at Jekyll Island, and the sea is going to part, and a pathway across that ocean is going to take place, and we're going to have 7 days to get across that ocean to get to the wadi that's on the other side, where we would then make our way down to Mount Sinai from there. All of these things could be happening. Nobody really knows, because eschatology is our best understanding as we know now. But think about these things. Think about the pressure that's going on, the persecution, where they've already talked about gathering up people that refuse to take the COVID vaccine, or they suspect you of having COVID, where they're going to put you in a concentration camp. I say concentrate, into a FEMA camp. No, a quarantine. And or the camps that are going to be used to re-educate those like us who do not agree with the New World Order and their systems. All of this is right now, right here. So this is the time that we can see that the Messiah has prepared us. This is a time to see that we're not to be fearful or to fret or to worry, because he's the one who feeds us with his word. It's sweet, and it encourages us, and it empowers us. And by his Spirit, we can have a voice like we've never had before. And I'll tell you this, if I have the opportunity, I'm opening my voice and I'm telling people, one of the things I'm telling them is don't do the vaccine, because it could kill you and your life is much more valuable. And if it can open up doors to talk about the next part of the message, I'm going to use that. Because this is this is the time that the bride begins to shine. Do not focus, let me say this, do not focus on the darkness. It feels like it's a great darkness, a gross darkness, as Isaiah tells us. But the light is much greater inside of each one of us. And as we gather together, that's why I say, do not forsake the assembling of ourselves together, and all the more as we see that day approaching. We need one another. Okay? We all need to gather. And when we see people that aren't here, we need to make sure that we're contacting them. And those that are listening online, if you're here in Amarillo, don't use the YouTube as an excuse to stay home and be comfortable. Still, come down here and gather with us. I know some people have different issues that are going on and they can't join us right now, so because of quarantines and that type of stuff. But join us as soon as you can. Get right back into it, because every one of us need to be here to gather and to encourage one another. And those that don't have a congregation, then we're gonna gather together, and as we usually do. And as long as we've got internet connection, we'll be able to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to share those things. I wanted to tell you, let's keep these things in perspective. Let's look at what may be happening. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just trying to connect dots. I'm trying to do it for years. But is this the year? I think we're going to notice. I think we're going to know, and we're going to really start having those confirmations more and more. And then here's the other thing. With great expectation, every night, pray. Every day, pray. But even in your sleep, Father, show me. Give me dreams and visions. And if it's the time, if we're going to all travel over to Georgia, to Jekyll Island, at what point in time, Father, I need to have you speak into my heart now, because I don't have very good ears to hear. I want to be able to know that when you say, wake up, it's time to go, that I don't miss that and say, that's the pizza that I just had. Okay? Those pizza, you know how I say pizza a lot, because pizza dreams are not the same. Right? They have no validity into anything real. Okay? I'm just saying. But okay. But also be attentive. So Father, let me be attentive when you speak to me. I want to hear your voice. I want to make sure that when I have that dream, I have that vision, that I hear your voice when you appear to me, or you send an angel that gives me that message, that whatever it takes, you know my personality, that it's loud enough for me to recognize that that's you. Amen? All right.